Welcome to The Sweat, presented by DraftKings. I am Emerson Lotzi. Let me tell you what's coming up in this super fantastic show here. How the Mets season soured from a dream to a nightmare. The legend of Tom Kim, it's growing. And let's go ahead and touch on some Monday Night Football. There's another Millie Maker available, and we'll give you some best bets as well. But first things first, so Week 5 around the NFL certainly had its fair share of surprises and shocking results. So let's go ahead and overreact to a lot of them right now with Julian Edlow and Pierce Dietrich. Top of the morning to both of you. So gentlemen, Orange Crush Cooper Rush is perfect as a starter. The Cowboys, with a damn good defense, are now 4-1 without Dak Prescott under center, dude. And the Rams continue to struggle. So Pierce, pick one to overreact to here. So the Cowboys are a Super Bowl contender, or the Rams will miss the playoffs.
I'll overreact to both. Cowboys, I don't know what to make of them yet. We haven't really seen them beat. They beat the Bengals, who are struggling this season. They beat Washington. We don't really know what to make of the Giants and whether that win means anything. And beating the Rams really is nothing to hang your hat on when you look at the way that the Rams are playing. Their offensive line is an absolute disaster. They've gone through 9 offensive linemen this season. As predicted, losing Andrew Whitworth has been a big blow to that offensive line. And as we've mentioned throughout the offseason, the Rams' big run at the end of last season was one of the softest routes to the Super Bowl we've ever seen. And now that they're facing semi-decent competition without an offensive line, no weapons for Stafford to pass to, they're struggling. Kupp can't do it all by himself. Kupp can't do it without a line. It's going to be a real show. We've seen this with Stafford before. When he doesn't have weapons or a line, he wasn't really that great with lines. Another thing that we should mention is that the Rams lost their offensive coordinator in the offseason and another offensive coach to the Minnesota Vikings. That could be adding to. There's a lot of things going on at the Rams. They're probably not going anywhere. Cowboys defense and rush probably going to be fine.
Yeah, Jules, would you take the plus money here for Rams to miss the playoffs?
I would. That division all of a sudden is looking quite shaky. Seattle, as Pierce would enjoy, is one of the more fun teams in that division. The Cardinals are below 500. The Rams look like they stink. And the Niners are, they went from like even money to over minus 200 to win the division within the week just by beating Carolina, who is awful, and the Rams kind of blowing it as a home favorite. So, yeah, I think that this could be a division that was once the big bad NFC West, that the Niners kind of win the division and get into the playoffs with Jimmy G, and that's the only team in. Who would have saw that at the beginning of the season? And just 5 weeks later, here we are. So yeah, I have big concerns about the Rams. I don't think they're very good. We get pressure on Stafford. It's looking a whole lot more like the operation in Detroit now that we saw for years. And the Cowboys could be good. Like Pierce ran through the wins. I'm not trying to take away from them because they're 4-1, but they don't have that good of a win yet.
Yeah,
their most impressive win is probably on the road at the Giants. So we'll see. The Cowboys could be something. They might not, but I'm confident that the Rams stink.
I mean, Pierce, how much do you think we'll find out about this Cowboys team next week when they take on the Eagles, only undefeated team in this league?
Yeah, that's where we'll really see the Eagles probably shine. And well, you never know, though. The Cowboys have faced every test so far and past, so I don't want to go ahead and bury them just yet.
Yeah, because we'll stay here in the NFC East too, because in the desert, I mean, the Eagles just barely escaped with a victory in the beak of the week. So how concerned, Pierce, are you that Philly struggled here a little bit? That offensive line is beaten up, and that's a primary strength for them.
They are beaten up, but when they needed that strength at the end of the game, it was there. They were able to run the ball. Through series, they were pretty good throughout the first half. The Cardinals came alive and played some pretty good pass defense in the second half, and you need that from an elite team. They have to face some adversity. It'd be great to never have to go through any problems, but it's nice to be reminded of some of your deficiencies and have to work on things. You can't simulate everything in practice. They were able to face a tough matchup, overcome it, not take a loss. The Cardinals came out in the second half of playing well, and Philly, though, responded. They went back to the other thing that they can do, which is run the ball really well, and that's how they won the game. And this is it's not just a balanced offensive attack from Philadelphia. It's 2 very good attacks on the ground and through the air. And then on the Cardinals side, what they really need to do, and it's risky and dangerous to do this, but they've got to just uncuff, unleash let Kyler Murray do what he can throughout the entire game. We see him struggle in the first half when they're not really being aggressive, when they're playing slow and conservative. But when they get behind and the Cardinals say, all right, Kyler, do your thing, they're magically good. If we could get 4 quarters of that from Kyler Murray, maybe the Cardinals will come back to life. But then again, you're going to risk Kyler Murray getting injured.
Yeah, Jules, what do you think here, man? Because the Eagles winning with A.J. Brown, like, not doing much, I thought that was a big win for the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good win for the Eagles, a road win to get to 5-0. Like, no matter what your schedule looks like, you're going to hit some bumps along the way. That's just going to happen, particularly on the road, particularly when you're battling injuries. And they found a way to win the game, which was impressive. If Sunday Night Football was going to be in Dallas, I would probably be telling you I'm taking the Cowboys. I'm a little more on the fence with this game in Philly. But yeah, if there's big injuries on the O-line that I'm curious to see these injury reports, because if they're going to be missing a lot of guys, then yeah, Dallas is definitely going to get some pressure in there. The difference is this isn't getting pressure on Carson Wentz and Matt Stafford. This is getting pressure on Jalen Hurts, who can move. So there's going to be a big difference this week where we really find out what both teams are. But I don't think Philly's win over Arizona tells us that much. Like, they won, they grinded it out on the road, but they didn't cover. They just kind of did what they had to do as a good team, and kept it moving. They're gonna hit a loss eventually, sometime soon.
Well, the New York Jets, Jules, over 500 through 5 weeks for the first time since the 2017 season, and then the Giants have started 4-1 for the first time since the 2008 campaign. Which one are you buying into as a contender?
I mean, neither are a contender. You can't buy either of them for that. The Giants are a team that could make the playoffs. The NFC is down. They're 4-1. They just beat Green Bay. They can be something, and we could suddenly see 3 teams from the NFC East make the NFC playoffs. That's a realistic outcome right now. The Jets are absolute frauds. They have lucked. They could be 0-5. Absolute frauds. They win a game against the Browns they have no business winning. A comeback that we haven't seen in 20 years, which on the other end of that was the Browns at that time, blowing a game by that many points that late. And then they get the Steelers win, where who knows what Mike Tomlin is doing throwing the ball. You just kind of run it a couple times, kick a field goal to go up 26-20 and see what the Jets can do. Interception, they go down the field and win the game. And then, sure, I guess give them credit. Like, they beat Miami. They put 40 points on the board, but they get him without Tua. Teddy Bridgewater's injured at the very beginning of the game, and they're playing a rookie 7th-round quarterback to get a win. I haven't seen one thing from the Jets that's impressed me. I have them under 6 wins. I'm furious about that because I feel like they should be 1-4, and here they are at 3-2. Things will level out, and this will stop.
All right, Pierce, are the Jets bigger frauds than the Giants?
Oh, absolutely. And Julian just laid out all the problems with the Jets. They beat the Steelers, big deal. They beat the Browns. The Browns are a good team, but they just find ways to lose every single week. Browns are actually a very impressive team, but what's even more impressive about the Browns is they just somehow lose every game. And one of those was to the Jets, miraculously. And then you look at the Dolphins game, we see the 40 points on the board, but there was 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and it was still a very close game. So even with a 7th-round quarterback playing, and Miami with a very limited playbook, basically just trying to manufacture everything they can to Tyreek Hill, and the Jets still barely won this game. Now, it looks different on the scoreboard, but that game was a lot closer. The Giants, on the other hand, Brian Dable has been absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
He has changed the culture at the Giants. He is calling great plays. He's working with the talent that he has, which is not much. And who knows how long they're going to be able to milk everything out of Barkley and that limited wide receiver core. But give them credit. They've won 4 games so far. Beating Green Bay, probably not the biggest deal. But don't give up on Green Bay yet either, because they've got a soft schedule coming up. So that would be interesting to look at. But Dable, we shouldn't be surprised. You look at wherever he's been as a coach, part of that Belichick coaching tree, great at Alabama, great at Buffalo, doing an awesome job. But I'm with Julian. I don't think this team is going to get deep into the playoffs. They just don't have the talent. They don't have the players. But they can get into the playoffs.
Would Brian Daboll be your Coach of the Year bet right now?
Absolutely.
Yep.
No doubt.
Jules, how about this? Ravens get the leg up on the Bengals win last night. I mean, Justin Tucker may be the most clutch kicker in NFL history. Sorry, Adam Vinatieri. But they move up now to minus 225 favorites here to win the division. Cincinnati falling to plus 425. This is Baltimore's division to lose. Is that an overreaction, Jules?
Not an overreaction at all. I got Baltimore in the season early on at some slight plus money. I don't want to tell you to bet it at minus 220, but I just see this growing. You look and you've got the Bengals are clearly having a down year. They can compete. They can win some games here and there, but that run that they had last year was kind of lightning in a bottle. And I think we're going to see some of that kind of slow them down as the season goes on. And then you look at the rest of the division. The Steelers, I think we can count out. They're not a very good team on a rookie quarterback, and it's just not going to happen for them this year. It's a rebuilding year there. And then the Browns, maybe I could tell you the Browns would have a chance if they were beating the Jets when they're up 14 at the end of the game and making game-winning field goals to beat the Chargers and keep things alive until Deshaun Watson comes back. But they're not. They're losing all those games, and Deshaun Watson's going to come back, and it's going to be done. Not that there aren't going to be, some hiccups there. The guy's going to be playing football for the first time in like 2 years. So I think Baltimore is going to run away with the division. There's just not much there. There's no one else to go with right now.
I mean, Pierce, how tempting is plus 425 for Cincy right now?
Yeah, I don't think that you can rule out Cincinnati. As Julian mentioned, they caught lightning in the bottle towards the end of last season. Yeah. There's no, that can absolutely happen again. And the Ravens are one injury or are not really that head and shoulders above the Bengals. They won a home game against the Bengals in a close matchup. They were basically the team that had the ball last. The Bengals, again, playing down to their opponents. I don't think the Ravens look that impressive. Obviously, the Bengals don't look that impressive either. The Ravens just played a better game, and it really comes down to game plan. Hey, let's double team Jamar Chase, and let's see, how that works out. And it worked out pretty well for them. Unfortunately, the Bengals, all they had to do was double team Mark Andrews, and they did it some, but not nearly enough. And that's really what killed them in this game, giving up too many big plays to Mark Andrews. The rush attack of the Ravens is not really like we've seen in the past. Lamar Jackson can extend some plays, but this Ravens team doesn't look like the 2020 Ravens. The Bengals don't look like the 2021 Bengals. We've got to wait and see, but I wouldn't rule out taking the Bengals right now. They've got the players. They just have to be more consistent. On some series, they're unstoppable. And then there's other times just a quick 3 and out, bad play calling, just can't execute. They just have to be more consistent. Same thing with the Ravens, I guess, as well.
Yeah, I mean, Steelers plus 4,000 for the division. And by the way, they're what's that? I heard your hot take yesterday where the Steelers were going to upset Buffalo. Jules, is that true?
Well, I'm sitting next to two guys in Josh Applebaum that makes his hot take, taking the Washington Commanders to win. That game closed up pick'em. And another guy, Steve Buchanan, who says that Travis Kelce is going to go over his average in yards against the Raiders.
Yeah.
So I said we got to get something hot take in this hot take segment before it closes. So give me the Steelers. I was wrong. I don't think I've gotten a hot take right in like 4 years on the show.
That's great.
Another day at the
That's
office.
great. Yeah, no, we'd love having you part of that segment. But yeah. So Kenny Pickett did not get the job done, the other rookie quarterback starting yesterday, for your Pats there, Jules, Bailey Zappi, he did get the job done. So people are like, oh my God, he needs to be playing over Mac Jones, starting over Mac Jones now. Jules, who's going to be the best rookie quarterback at the end of the year?
Well, I mean, it's Mac Jones' starting job, so when he's ready, he's going to come back and take it. I don't think this is
I don't know, man.
I don't think this is a spot that – I don't think Zappi's done anything to necessarily win the job. He's a fun story, and it's good to see him look this good. It gives the Patriots an asset, but I don't think Mac Jones is coming back and sitting on the bench. So that just means Kenny Pickett's going to play more, and now all of a sudden Tennessee has ripped off a few in a row, so – the Malik Willis hype is going to kind of calm down there. So I think there's a good chance Pickett's the only guy that, other rookie quarterbacks will step in and spot start. I think there's a good chance Kenny Pickett is the only starting QB1 that is a rookie quarterback this season. So it's him.
Should we?
And it was last week's impossible. You're at Buffalo. Now you're going to play Tampa. Like, he's going to get off to a bad start, and then we're going to see him kind of get his feet under him.
There's also Desmond Ridder down in Atlanta, Pierce.
Ridder probably is not going to get on the field. Mariota has done everything they need. That offense looks okay in Atlanta. I just don't expect any reason to rush Ridder at the moment. Zappi looks good. He's one of these DFS preseason legends. We never forget those guys. It's hard to evaluate him. He played against Green Bay in a game that they were down by a lot. Wasn't facing really the toughest coverage. Then got to face Detroit, which, again, Pretty soft matchup there. And then you compare that to what Pickett had to deal with in his first game against Buffalo, which just was a nightmare matchup. I don't know why Jeff Ulrich was saying to play Kenny Pickett against Buffalo's #1 pass defense. They get some of the most, they're ranked towards the top of the league in pressure, and they don't even blitz. That's just a nightmare for any quarterback, let alone one who apparently has really small hands or something. I don't know. You always mention that.
Yeah. No, well, it's a big thing. Yeah, it's a big thing for us here because Jesse has bigger hands than Kenny Pickett. That's what she likes to bring up.
Yeah, that's probably a deal breaker. But Zappy, it's a cool story.
Yeah.
But by the end of the season, I would love to see, Drew Bledsoe Part 2. But Mac Jones never gets back on the field, and Zappy, takes his team somewhere. I don't think Mac Jones was that great, but I think that the Patriots are probably a little more invested in Mac Jones, so they'll stick with him.
Game managers, man. That's all they have. That's all they are.
It'll be Pickett.
Game managers. Pierce, we'll have you back coming up in a little bit for some Monday Night Football picks, so some DFS stuff. Again, folks, $15 to get into a Millie Maker in the DraftKings lobby right now. We'll also talk some best bets. But Jules, hang out. Let's talk a little bit of baseball because Wild Card Weekend wrapped up, and guess what? The San Diego Padres, baby. The San Diego Padres are heading to the NL Division Series after shutting down the Mets in a winner-take-all Wild Card Series Game 3. So that's Joe Musgrove was nearly flawless in 7 scoreless innings, allowing only 1 hit and 1 walk. You had the back of the Padres lineup sparking rally after rally, ending a 101 victory season for New York with a 6-0 shutout dub. I mean, it was the only game, Jules, to make it to Sunday. Every other wild card series was a sweep here. So we expected the Padres, obviously, to make some noise, especially after the Soto edition. Little bit of disappointment, I would say, for the Mets. How the hell did their season turn into a nightmare, and really over just this 2-week span?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was... I think part of the nightmare was just how hot the Braves got.
Okay.
The Braves got red hot to win the division and caught them. So you got to tip your cap to the Braves. But if you're the Mets, you got to hold on. And they couldn't. And, looking at ways they could have won the division, DeGrom in his last 4 starts, he gave up 3 runs in a head-to-head with the Braves. He got lit up by the A's, the Pirates, the Cubs. Like, get a couple of those games, and maybe you win the division and you're not in this situation. And then once again, too many pitches on Scherzer throughout the season. He comes in, sets the tone in game 1 by getting rocked, and you're in a bad place. So I just think it was an all-around, letdown for the Mets. The offense obviously did nothing in the 2 losses. I think 1 total run in the 2 losses, and you get absolutely shut down by Musgrove in that winner-take-all game. So it's a huge bust of a season for the Mets. I think not just because of the 3-game series with the Padres. The Padres are good, and the Mets were coming into that without any momentum. But if you can finish the regular season stronger and get the division, that's the difference to me right there.
Yeah, and I know that also San Diego ended up having contributions from unexpected dudes. Like, who was that? Trent Grisham was a 184 hitter in the regular season, and it ended up just tallying like crucial hit after crucial hit. But we can go to America's team now because the Mariners pull off the sweep with a historic comeback in Game 2. What happened on Saturday to the Blue Jays? How the heck did this collapse end up coming down?
Bad pitching by Toronto, I guess. But I think the story here is just, where did this offense from Seattle come from? Because the second half of the year, they were, nothing special in terms of runs per game. They were winning games with their pitching. And we saw, Luis Castillo, that addition, how huge it was with him throwing a gem in game 1. But Toronto bounced back. Like, they got their runs in game 2 and built a lead that you should never lose in a game that eliminates you at home if you lose it. And they were all set to go to that game 3 and coin flip game on Sunday, see what happens. But bullpen blows it. But I just, the Seattle offense, their ability to get that hot, if they can play like this in future rounds, there's no reason they can't compete in the AL. It's just, that's a 2-game sample size. And if you go back to the whole second half of the season, they just weren't producing anything close to that.
Yeah, I'm going to wager that there's just absolutely zero intimidation, too, for the Mariners going in now to face the almighty, Astros. I know that their bats can be a little inconsistent, but you just nailed it. They're feeling hot as hell going into Houston.
They're feeling good, and
Yeah.
it's a division rival, so it's always, somebody you're familiar with,
Yep.
maybe you're a little less intimidated by. So yeah, I think it's the Astros series to lose. Like, they've got a lot of edges, particularly massive edges offensively. But Seattle's hot. They've played them tough in some division games. If Seattle had the Yankees, I would be taking them in the series. I can't do it against the Astros. I think the Astros are gonna have too much here. And all the wild card teams really are in particularly tough spots. I know we're going to talk about all the series, but like, when you have the 1-game wild card and you make it out, it's like, all right, now we got to save our ace a little bit here. But when you have 2-3 games, now you're burning more arms, you're burning more bullpen, and you're getting thrown into a series against a heavyweight. It puts you in a tough spot.
All right, so the Guardians, are they going to have enough to keep up here in the next round? Because, and I know the Rays offense was absolutely punchless as well, Jules. So that was an epic 15-inning, 1-0 game on Saturday. So they completed the sweep against the Rays. There were 4 total runs in this series. That's just October baseball, but what'd you think about that one?
If you like pitching, that's your kind of game. I think most of us would probably take the offense. I for sure would, but some of our hardcore baseball guys, Buchanan, Carrabis, I don't know, maybe they like a pitching duel.
Yeah.
I want runs.
Yeah,
but
me too.
It was impressive by Cleveland. And if you told me I have to bet one of the underdogs for the series in this next round, I would bet Cleveland against the Yankees. Only because they have pitching. They have, middle relief. They have a closer that is the best in the game, I would say. So if the Yankees get cold, and they played 500 ball out of the All-Star break, we saw them play awful out of the All-Star break. If the Yankees get cold and Cleveland pitches like they pitched in that wild card series, I could see them, scratching up enough runs to get it done in an ugly series. But again, like, you start off in a bad spot because you just had to use 15 innings worth of arms, and now you got to go into a series playing game 1 in the Bronx. Like, it definitely starts you at a disadvantage in game 1. But if anything, Cleveland has the pitching to get it done. And if New York gets into one of those cold streaks like the Yankees were at a point in the season, that's how Cleveland wins it.
Yeah, and then you had the Phillies taking both games over the division winning Cards. So we said last week that the Phillies are going to win this series. It will probably be a sweep, so hopefully our viewers cashed on that one. Jules, I know you had St. Louis, so why did all of a sudden they go so cold?
I think that the 9th inning of game 1 is one of those, puke all over yourself collapses that you just can't recover from. You're 2 outs away from being up 1-0, and going into a coin flip game 2 and having the game 3 in your back pocket all at home. Closer just completely collapses, gets his hand looked at, can't pitch anymore, gets taken out, and at that point, you're in an impossible spot with the bases loaded. They probably gave up more runs than they needed to, 6 runs in the top of the 9th, but the mess was already there when the closer came out of the game, and I think that's just such a shocking loss that you are almost at a disadvantage the next day, just still unable to get past what happened, and that turned out to be the case. Nola is a hot and cold pitcher, winds up pitching a shutout on the road, and the Phillies advance. So I think if St. Louis gets those 2 outs in game 1, we're probably talking about them winning that series, and that is the entire difference. But now the Phillies get thrown into a really tough spot going to Atlanta for game 1. So it's tough for me to say that they're going to be able to keep it up past what they were able to do in St. Louis.
Okay, Guardians, Yankees, Mariners, Astros. Which underdog would you back, if any? Which underdog do you think has a chance to upset?
I think the popular pick is going to be the Mariners. A lot of people like the Mariners, and I get it. They're a fun team. I really hope the Mariners beat the Yankees. I think that would be fun. They're not playing the Yankees. I hope that the Mariners beat the Astros. I think that would be fun, but I think that the Guardians are the team with the better chance, and it's just because of their pitching. Seattle can pitch, but I'll be pretty surprised if they can score like they scored against Seattle in a 5-game series against the Yankees. So I think that Cleveland is in a tough spot in game 1, but overall, just because of their pitching, they would be my play for the series if I was going to play that one. Whereas I think that the Astros, you can, on DK Sportsbook, you can do series lines. So you could like lay a game and a half with the Astros to get a better number for the series if you like them, or you can parlay series lines on DK Sportsbook. So if you like, the Astros Braves, Astros Dodgers, whatever, you can just put two together. I got to go with the Astros in that one.
Yeah, and then one more before you get out of here. The Phillies or Padres. Is there one of those matchups that you would also back a dog, or are we going heavy favorites here? Because they're both divisional matchups. So things could always get weird. These teams know each other well.
Yeah, so if anything, you're getting familiarity. You're right. Things can get weird. Things can always get weird in baseball. But I have to go both favorites here. Again, this would be one that I would like money line parlay the Dodgers and the Braves. I really think that we're going to see another Dodgers-Braves series like we did last year when the Braves upset the Dodgers. I don't think that the Phillies or Padres are quite good enough here to win a 5-game series. And again, when you come in having, already had to play massive games with your life on the line for the weekend, you're starting at a disadvantage. So I like the Dodgers and Braves to get out to leads here and hold them if you're looking to bet, game ones on whatever, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever days they are.
All right, dude, that's it. We have breaking news to get to around the NFL coming up right after part of my conversation with Mr. Golick of the Smetty and Golick podcast. We're talking Monday Night Football because tonight, Chiefs-Raiders, a lot of points will be scored in that one. So Patrick Mahomes and company here, Mike, they rank second in the NFL in scoring offense, and that's despite playing 3 of their first 4 weeks on the road. So the Chiefs tend to really crush this matchup, especially like last season. What are your expectations this time around?
Nothing different.
Really?
Nothing different. I mean, the secondary for the Raiders has been struggling. Mahomes and company looked incredible. I did that game. They had this is what was amazing in their win at Tampa Bay. 37 rushes, 37 passes. Because Andy Reid at times has been criticized for going away from the run and passing too much. Even with running the pass, the running game helped so much, as I talked about earlier with play action. I was stunned how well they ran the ball against Tampa Bay. And then Mahomes just did Mahomes things. We see him play like baseball with his sidearm pass and sliding, obviously football, and then he threw basketball in there with his jump shot touchdown at the 2-yard line. I mean, their offense was absolutely humming against one of the best defenses in Tampa Bay. So I put a whole lot of stock in KC and not a whole lot in Vegas.
Yeah, like the Raiders come in and feel a little better because they picked up their first victory of the season last week. But Derek Carr, how about this, Mike? 3-13 as a starter against the Chiefs. Like, they just own him.
Yeah, they do. It's good, and I'm going to go and say 3-14.
So Patrick Mahomes and company here, Mike, they rank. Matt Rule, head coach of the Carolina Panthers, out. They have canned him, and a pretty good reason why. 11-27 in 2+ campaigns in Carolina. So Steve Wilks is going to take over as the interim head coach, former Cardinals head coach Steve Wilks. Jeff Ulrich, Pierce Dietrich, welcome back. Before we get into Monday Night Football picks here, Jeff, why did Matt Rule fail to live up to the hype when he was coming out of the college game here? Like, what was his biggest issue in Carolina?
I think it's just the trap that I think a lot of college football coaches fall into when they come to the NFL. They think that they know everything and they try and implement a system from college specifically, and they basically try to fit a square peg into a round hole. And they don't focus on team building, or they don't focus on being flexible and making the system work within the professional game. And you could see it with the Carolina Panthers. It was just banging your head into a brick wall season after season. There's more to it too. I mean, there's really strange personnel decisions, thinking you're smarter than the league by signing Sam Darnold instead of taking a quarterback in one of the deepest draft years at the position with the top 10 pick, or trading up to get one of those quarterbacks. There's just so many things that the Panthers did weird and that they didn't do that, this comes as absolutely no shock.
Yep.
Matt Rule went 1-27 when his opponents scored 17 or more points. That is the very definition of an ineffective offense.
Yeah.
No shock today that Matt Rule got fired.
Pierce, Teddy Bridgewater, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, all failing to emerge as the option there. And then Jeff alluded to it as well. Like the Panthers just were not aggressive, decided not to trade up for Tua or Justin in 2020. A lot of brain fart moves there.
Yeah, Matt Rule didn't do himself any favors. They also had a slew of bad offensive coordinators. About this time last season, they fired Joe Brady, who was supposed to be, the whiz kid offensive coordinator from the college ranks. That didn't work out. Rule didn't work out. They really didn't do any favors with free agent moves or through the draft. And then even if Rule and Brady and whoever was on that coaching staff were semi-competent, you never really had a quarterback. You never really had an offensive line, and Christian McCaffrey was injured. So, I'm not going to apologize for Matt Rule, but anybody who was the head coach of that team would not be the head coach today. The question is, who's going to be next? Are they going to go with Byron Leftwich or Will Wilkes, rally the team together and actually get a real shot at being a head coach? I'm thinking Leftwich next season.
Yeah, and Jeff, Baker Mayfield has been arguably like the worst quarterback in the league. Like he's just not it.
And the thing is, though, like Carolina knew it. They knew it, and that's the option they went with. And you can argue that maybe part of it is just Rule's system, but this is just part of the problem. Like their personnel decisions. The coach thinking he's smarter than the league, he can take someone like Darnold or Baker Mayfield, make it work. We saw it with Chip Kelly when another college coach who failed. He went out and got Sam Bradford.
Yeah.
I don't know what these college coaches are thinking sometimes when they're evaluating talent, and Rule really no different than a long list of people behind him.
Yeah, no real questions at the quarterback position for two teams on Monday Night Football tonight. So it's going to be the Raiders, it's going to be the Chiefs, and we'll start here in DFS. We'll start with the Millie Maker here, Jeff. A lot of options tonight for your captain pick, 1.5 times the salary, 1.5 times the points in return. Mahomes and Kelsey both going over 36 DK fantasy points in the captain spot last week. So who is your pick tonight?
I'm going to go with Devontae Adams. I like the spot for Adams. Raiders are really desperate for a win, obviously. 7.5 point underdogs. You got the Chiefs. One thing what we have seen from the Chiefs, their defense has been pretty good. They're getting some pressure, but late in games, they're giving up chunks of yardage. We saw Justin Herbert almost pull off a miraculous, comeback win, piling up over 300 yards. Two quarterbacks have now gone for over 300 yards against the Chiefs. And I think matchup-wise, this is where the Chiefs have struggled, allowing 100 yards and 2 touchdowns to Mike Evans. It's against big physical wide receiver ones. Devontae Adams is 17-1, but I think a lot of people are going to be looking to go to Travis Kelce, who's a little bit cheaper, or maybe even Mahomes here, or maybe even go down to Josh Jacobs. I think Devontae Adams is in a spot where he can dominate, potentially at least keep this game close for the Raiders and make it exciting.
All right, Pierce, what direction are you going in here for your captain?
Same team. Let's go a little bit cheaper. Hunter Renfrow, Kansas City, 5.8 yards per when we're talking about depth of target, and 28 in short passes. So Kansas City doesn't really give up a lot of deep stuff, but underneath they will either get killed or allow it. And it's a lot of their scheme, and they're getting a lot of pressure. Top of the league in terms of a 29% pressure rate. They blitz a lot. Top 3 in quarterback knockdowns, top 3 in quarterback hurries. It forces these quick passes. That's what Hunter Renfrow runs. Jared Sneed's been a really good slot cornerback this season, but he hasn't really faced anyone. And we could see Sneed match up a little bit more on Adams. You look at what Renfro's done in the past against Kansas City. Last matchup, he had 11 catches, over 140 yards, a touchdown. Had a big game before that. I think it just plays well to Renfrow just underneath, slowly picking away 5 yards, 10 yards here. He has been cleared to play. He hasn't played in a couple games. Maybe he's off the radar for some people when you get a little bit lower ownership.
Well, Pierce, we just heard from Mike Golick. He mentioned how impressed he is with the Chiefs' ground game. So how much exposure will you have to some of those dudes for Kansas City? Like, is CEH a guy that you got to stack tonight?
You could look at playing, CEH. The interior line for Kansas City has been really strong. Their run offense has looked well between the tackles, and they've had some interesting plays here and there. I worry about their outside of that, them hitting the big plays. I know the Raiders aren't the greatest rush defense. That's probably not the direction I would go in terms of stack. If I'm stacking, I'm going to lean on what Jeff has already mentioned. Devontae Adams, Derek Carr going along with Hunter Renfrow. Kansas City has a really good run defense. Their pass defense, not that great. They have been susceptible to wideouts taking advantage of them. Godwin, Evans, Mike Williams. and I expect Carr to lean a lot on Devontae Adams in this matchup. So I like getting all of the pass catchers from the Raiders and Derek Carr in what could easily be a shootout.
All right, Jeff, CEH is averaging, 19 fantasy points per game.
Yeah, I really don't mind it. Look, if I'm targeting Devontae Adams as my captain, I think coming back with Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the flex actually makes sense as a game stack. I mean, obviously we're expecting Kansas City to be ahead in this game. It just means more rush attempts for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. The other factor here is Juju Smith-Schuster is a little bit banged up, so the hamstring is tightened. Do we really want to rely on Marquez Valdes-Scantling stepping in and being like a productive wide receiver? I don't. I think that you may be playing a guessing game where the ball is going outside of Travis Kelce in this game. Pierce alluded to just sticking with the big players, and I agree. I mean, I think starting with Devontae Adams and Travis Kelce, regardless of who you put in your captain spot, is probably a must. But I want exposure to the Kansas City Chiefs run game. They have run the ball well, and I think that's a good observation. And I think it's a change in their offense from last year that they're obviously focusing on. They've got a healthy starting running back. So Edwards-Helaire is the flex that I would really consider stacking specifically to go with, how we think the game is going to flow down in our lineup.
Pierce, your time to shine. Where's the value here, man? Are we going to expect a fullback touchdown tonight? Tight end 3? You tell me, dude.
Yeah, let's not let the audience down. We'll go with Noah Gray, tight end 3. We're going to go back to this. It didn't work out. But look, we all know what's going to happen. We know the approach to winning this showdown is to pick the random touchdown. And we've got an idea of what Kansas City will do. We just hope that we pick the right guy. Unfortunately, when I picked Noah Gray in week 1, he wasn't the right guy. It was Jody Fortson's week. And then in, I believe, week 2, it was Justin Watson's week. And then again in week 4, it was Fortson's week again. So we have seen this play out several times where, the tight end 3 or wide receiver 4 gets the touchdown and is in the winning lineup. I'm going to go back to Gray. I believe, he's a good pass blocker, good run blocker. He's going to be in those goal line sets. I just hope that they dial him up this time. He was a great receiving tight end out of Duke, one of the best in the nation. He has the ability to catch the ball. We just need it to be his turn and not Fortson's turn. I think a lot of people will play Fortson because he's been the one that's worked. Maybe we'll get a little bit of depressed ownership on Gray.
Okay.
Either way, we're flipping a coin here.
Yeah, we know. We're well aware, but it's become one of the best parts of this show every week. Oh, hey, he's hovering around 50% of the snaps all year and has at least one target in each game, Pierce. And he's $600. I mean, come on, Jeff, where are you looking at for value?
Yeah, great. You guys have fun with the third string tight ends there, okay?
I can't wait for him to catch a touchdown tonight, and I'm going to fire up the group chat.
Great. I'm going to go to the running back position because this is probably where you should be going for value. Isaiah Pacheco, obviously coming on, played season-high snaps in the last game, season-high carries as well, averaged well over 5 yards per carry against a tough Tampa Bay run defense. I think he's going to see more continuation of work this week. So Pacheco is a player, and again, like I mentioned Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I think he can play both Kansas City running backs. I really do feel like that is an option today for showdown. Brandon Bolden at 2,000, I think, is where you can go. You should go for extreme value. If this game does turn into more of a shootout and Derek Carr is driving back 40-plus times, you'll see Brandon Bolden on the field more. Josh McDaniels brought him in for a reason. It's because he can work him a little bit in the passing game, and that's just kind of what Josh McDaniels' offense likes to do at times. So I think Bolden probably comes alive in this game. Don't be shocked if he pops up with 4 or 5 catches. At 2K, at the very least, he's definitely viable tonight for showdown.
All right, dudes, let's go over to the DK Sportsbook here. What's a player prop you like tonight, Jeff? So, like Steve's hot take on the show yesterday was Travis Kelce going over 100 yards. His prop is set at 72.5 for receiving yards on the DK Sportsbook, but he does average 101 yards against the Raiders here, and that's since 2018.
Well, and look, I'll be quick here. There's a player prop on the DraftKings Sportsbook. You can get Travis Kelce and Devontae Adams 100-plus yards and a touchdown each. It's plus 1,600. I like both those players in this spot tonight, and I think that's very interesting for player props. But I'm going to focus in on Derek Carr. Over 299.5. You go to the alternate lines on the DraftKings Sportsbook. Over 299.5, basically asking for a 300-yard game from Derek Carr, plus 150. I think he's going to be pushed into passing more here. He averaged 40 pass attempts against the Kansas City Chiefs last year. He's got Hunter Renfrow back. I like these odds. Two of the 4 quarterbacks against the Chiefs so far have thrown for over 300 yards. Give me Derek Carr to go over 300 yards.
All right, Pierce, what's player prop, dude?
Let's go to the defensive side. Max
Ooh.
Crosby over 0.75 sacks. He's got 4 sacks through the season. He's going to face off against his former college teammate out of Eastern Michigan, right tackle Andrew Wiley, who ranks 50th out of 69 in terms of tackles. I mentioned earlier, Kansas City, very good when it comes to center and guard, but their tackles are not playing that well. Crosby has been an absolute beast this season, one of the early favorites to win Defensive Player of the Year. I expect him to get a sack in this matchup.
All right, dudes, let's talk total here because currently on the DK Sportsbook, it is 52. Now, the last 4, look at these ridiculous scores. The last 4 have gone over. So is this another over in the works tonight, Pierce?
Yeah, Las Vegas has some good defensive players, but as a whole, the unit's not very strong. They're allowing 25 points per game. As much as I like the pass rush, and I like some of the players on the Raiders side, Mahomes, Kelsey, Edwards-Helaire, even Pacheco, the way that the offense is rolling, they're going to put points on the board. And I expect the Raiders, playing from behind, be a little bit pass happy, working Renfro, working Adams. They should be able to put points on the board as well. Give me the over.
I mean, both the Raiders and Chiefs here allow nearly 25 points per game, Jeff, and both offenses, the top 10 in scoring.
And the primetime unders are pretty solid at
Yeah.
7-3. But like again, I'm just gonna I can't do it. I can't pick an under in the game versus the Chiefs. And the Raiders, the defenses just aren't good enough, in my opinion. The Chiefs just allow too many yards. You've got Renfro back. The Raiders just do not bring a pass rush. I like Max Crosby too, but he just can't do it all on his own. Patrick Mahomes, even if Juju Smith-Schuster somehow is limited or doesn't play, he's just going to have so much time to sit back there. He's probably going to turn Noah Gray or Noah, whatever his name is, into like Rob Gronkowski. So give me the over here. I think that this probably will get there eventually.
All right, what do we want to do here then for the spread, gentlemen? So Chiefs now, I believe it's down to 7 on the DK Sportsbook. Chiefs favored by 7 at home. So what's the bet in this one, Jeff?
Yeah, so you're probably going to want to wait till this gets to plus 7.5. But I'm definitely taking the Raiders here. If you look, one huge trend going into this game, just going into this week, teams that have more than 60% of the public bets on them, going into week 5, it was 18-9 ATS. What did we see in week 5? We saw the Bears cover against the Vikings, and we saw the Atlanta Falcons cover against Tampa Bay. Both the Vikings and Tampa Bay had over 70% of the bets on them. The Chiefs have over 70% of the bets on them tonight from the public. Let's take the Raiders to continue this trend of plus 7.5. That line will move there eventually.
Okay, Pierce, what's the move?
Yeah, the line will definitely move. This morning it was plus 7, then it went up to 7.5. Now it's moved back to 7. I imagine it's going to jump right back to 7.5. So wait for it to go to 7.5 and hammer this. As we've seen before, if Chandler Jones can just get it going, if they can get that pass rush working on the outside, then that's how you beat Mahomes or at least limit him a little bit. 7 or 7.5. It's a lot of points for an interdivision game. And look at what Kansas City did last week. They allowed Tom Brady to have like a 115 quarterback rating, 385 yards passing.
Yeah.
That pass defense did not look that strong. I think it is an overreaction. They won that game pretty comfortably against the Buccaneers, but the Buccaneers are not nearly as good as people think that they are. Just rewind the clock to a couple weeks ago where the Colts beat the Chiefs. Now you're getting the Colts 7.5 over the Raiders. I think this is too big of a line. Take the Raiders.
By the way, Mahomes, his success against the Raiders is unbelievable. He's thrown 22 touchdowns and 3 picks and averages 320 passing yards per game in his career against the Silver and Black. Should be a good one tonight. Pierce, you are free to go. Jeff, hang out, because after the break, we're going to dive into the legend of Tom Kim. It continues to grow. The history he has made following his debut, or at least a dominating win in Vegas. Let's go. Yo, yesterday, Tom Kim, really the past 4 days, the performance he put on at the Shriners Children's Open was unbelievable. So 72 holes. Look at that winning score. 24 under. He had 24 birdies. You know how many bogeys he had? 0. Just the third player since 1974 to win a stroke play event without making a bogey. Oh, yeah. There's more. Jeff Ulrich, Colin Sherwin. This guy, first player since Tiger Woods, Colin, to earn 2 PGA Tour wins before turning the young, ripe age of 21. How impressive was these last 4 days and this performance by Tom Kim?
Really impressive, because what gets you beat more on the PGA Tour than anything is mistakes. And if you just play mistake-free golf, even the best players in the world aren't going to be able to keep up with you. Look at his playing partner on the last day, Patrick Cantlay, who goes triple on the last. Okay, I'm not going to lie. I didn't even see the tournament, but I'm just looking at the little chart here that they have on PGAtour.com of like how they don't even have his second and third shots on the chart because they can't even figure out where. I assume the ball went in the water. All I know is he was hitting 5 from like the top of a lake on a par 4 and made triple in the last and lost by 3 shots. So that's what gets you beat on the PGA Tour is mistakes more than anything. If you're going to play truly incredibly consistent mistake-free golf and you're like barely old enough to drink, I mean, the upside on this guy is just massive.
Yeah, it really is. So he joined Tiger Woods, Jeff, as the only player since World War freaking II to win twice on the PGA Tour before turning 21.
I mean, I've heard Tiger Woods is pretty good at golf, so
yeah,
I
he's
guess
not
that's
bad.
a good comparison.
Reasonable.
It's pretty crazy. Like, I can sit here and you can be like, well, these are easy courses, and they are easy courses. But as Colin mentioned, like, it is so hard to go 72 holes and not make a mistake.
Yeah.
I mean, and what Tom Kim is doing, like, it's not just one facet of the game. I think that's the most impressive thing. It's just everything, like it's the approaches, it's the short game, it's draining like every 10-footer that he sees, it's draining every 20-footer that he sees. I'd say that the most comparable thing we've seen from this, like this recently, is when Jordan Spieth came in between 2014 and 2015.
Yeah.
I think it's a very good comparison for Tom Kim.
Yep.
Because he's just that kind of electric player. He does everything well. He's not intimidated. He's just uber confident in every part of his game. And Spieth maybe has fallen off a little bit since that run, but Tom Kim looking every bit as elite as Jordan Spieth did in that run. And, we know how that ended with Spieth, shipping multiple majors eventually.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to fathom Tom Kim not competing at majors very soon and potentially next year.
Well, as we start go ahead, Colin.
I was going to say, the thing with Kim is that he literally never misses a fairway. Like he's never, with Jordan, he's all over the course. He hits it, left, right, center, but then he makes an amazing shot to bail himself out. The swings are much higher. With Kim, he literally just driving accuracy. He's picking up like 2 shots around on the field because he hits the ball so straight. He
might be the upgraded version of Jordan Spieth. Which is
seriously.
And guys, as we start our pin placement segment here, I'm looking at the board on DK Sportsbook. Like Tom Kim already has the third shortest odds to win this week at the Zozo Championship. So I believe it's over in Japan. So I think the first round then would tee off then over here Eastern time in the States like Wednesday night at 6 o'clock. Where does Tom Kim finish this week, Jeff?
Okay, so he's still young. He's got a lot of confidence, but he's coming off a big win. He's coming off the President's Cup. Now he's got to go overseas. Let's just play for an easy week follow-up. We're going to say T12.
Okay.
I'm not going to pick him to finish way down in the standings because he's just too talented to do that at this point. He's probably going to golf with his eyes closed and finish T12. But coming off all this golf and on a track, overseas, it is quite a change what they're going to see this week over in Japan. It's more technical. It's not quite as open as the Shriners or even the Wyndham where he won his first event. So I'll say T12 for Tom Kim. He's not going to struggle. He's just going to be a little different. He's probably just going to be a little bit hungover. So that's the big take with Tom Kim.
Yeah, Colin, what do you think here, man? Because he's young, he's hungry. Like, I don't know, another win wouldn't really be that surprising, but where are you going to place him here?
I mean, of all the guys that played last week that have to fly halfway across the world and lose a day, he would probably be the one that is in the best position because of his age, because he is so young. But still, I don't like any of these guys that are that played this week and then are now flying all the way across the world next week. I just think that's a huge inherent disadvantage. You're losing a day. You're losing a day of practice. There's jet lag. There's so much working against you here. So I know, especially a lot of the Asian-based players want to play in this tournament because it's an opportunity to play in front of their fans on their time zone, in front of family. But I do think that this is just going to be a real challenge for these guys that chose to play this week and not go over early. I think they're way behind the 8 ball this week. So, yeah, I don't like any of them. And that would include Kim, even though if I had to pick one, I'd pick him.
Well, he's got the same odds to win this week as the defending champ, so that's Hideki Matsuyama. Is he being a little overlooked here as a threat to repeat, Jeff?
I mean, look, Hideki loves this course. I mean, he just loves playing in front of, obviously, of his home nation. This is basically a major for Hideki. So you could definitely, suggest that he's being a little bit overlooked. I mean, the odds are pretty fair. I mean, this is about what we were getting on Hideki last year, quite frankly. The main difference with Hideki is that he was coming into a little bit better form last year. He'd previously top 5 at the Fortinet. This year, he put in a top 30, didn't look that sharp at the President's Cup. So I would say no. I mean, he's not my choice from this range. But you could definitely argue that he should be, up there with Sanjay M. I mean, just from the course history aspect alone, we have seen when you get Hideki on courses that he likes, he's going to show up every year. He does it in Phoenix. So, again, not for me, but these odds really aren't terrible. I mean, it's pretty much what we were getting last season, and there's not that much a difference in recent form. So, yeah, it's fair odds, but I'm going to still fade him just because there's another player basically at that same price, and he rhymes with Morikawa that I really like. So.
All right, Colin, where's the defending champ finishing this week?
I'll give him a top 10, but I don't think he takes it down either. Yeah, look, last year he gained 4.11 strokes per round last year on this course, so he definitely plays it well. Has had good success here. Before it had flipped over. And it had played in the U.S., so let's discount that one. But he's one of the better players in the world. But again, I just think there's better value out there on the board. Plus 1,600 is an okay price, but I don't think you're long-term plus EV with it. So I'm going to go ahead and fade here. And I guess Jeff and I are going to both spoil it. There's another Colin out there that I think has a really good chance this week, and he spells his name correctly. So.
All right, let's go. Let's go to Morikawa. So top 10 last year at the Zozo. Why do you like him so much this week, Jeff? And are you taking him to win?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm taking him to win. He just sets up beautifully for this course, quite frankly. It's a technical, there's some dog legs in there. It's a tree line course. It's just it's just a shot maker's course where, again, iron play is so essential. Who have we seen win at this course? We've seen the best iron player ever to play the game in Tiger Woods. And then we've seen Hideki Matsuyama, who also might be a top 10 iron player ever to play the game. I mean, this is just a venue with short par 3s where you can just get in a groove. Again, not like a driver heavy course, definitely not like what you call a bomb and gouge type of course. It's really great for a player like Morikawa, who's probably not going to be super stressed around the greens. The greens here in Japan also tend to play a little bit slower. And there's really nothing that's negative about this. I think this is an ideal setup for Colin Morikawa. And look, his last time out wasn't great at the Tour Championship, but he gained 5 strokes on approach. He's still been gaining on approach, even though as he struggled a little bit with the putter. I think these greens probably help him a little bit. We got low 3-putt percentage from last year. I love it. Take the 1,600. All
right. What do you think, Colin?
Yeah, I'm with Jeff here. This is, what this course sets up really well, and it's because of that approach game. Morikawa is one of the best iron players in the world. And so when he's, laying in the middle of the fairway on a wide fairway, when he's got a nice tight lie, he's going to stick it in there as close as anyone. And even if he's off by a few feet, the slow greens will assist him. I believe he was T7 here last year. Is that right? I think it was. Yes. Yep. So has been T7 here before, has had success here before. This price is just too good. I think he should be closer to 10 or 11 instead of 16, and I think there's value here. So, yeah, as a value play, I think Colin Morikawa is definitely the right guy on the board. And again, 2 L's, spells his name correctly, has won majors before. We were very symbiotic that way, and I got to root for the guy.
Yeah, you're both beautiful human beings. And on that note, we have run out of time. So that's all. Yeah, the show, we're done. We're done because I believe we have Madden Slate kicking off at noon. And
Okay, buddy.
Yeah, and the company makes a lot of money on those. So, yeah, they would like that to air on time. But Colin, Jeff, good stuff, man. Everyone, we're back here in studio tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock Eastern time. We will see you then. Hey.